On April 9, 2026, EVO official account announced an exhibition match between Tyler1 and Ludwig, two very famous content creators. When I saw the announcement for the first time, I felt a slight sense of indignation, a minimal, latent frustration, the kind you feel when, you know something is gonna happen, but it still disappoints you once it does. But I didn't like feeling that way. A part of me immediately thought that Ludwig is part of the FGC. He has contributed enormously to the Super Smash Bros. Melee scene. And meanwhile, Tyler1, even if I don't personally follow his content, grinds and continues to grind at Street Fighter 6, even organizing in the past modern-only tournaments for the community with prize pools. Plus, Tyler is already incredibly famous as a top player in the most popular esports of all time, which is League of Legends. I don't sense any cloud chasing in this exhibition, simply because neither of the two competitors need it. I really don't perceive them as complete outsiders, complete strangers or tourists, but still a lingering feeling was there. I mean, we've seen worse, right? We've seen KSI versus iShowSpeed, a marketing stunt executed without narrative, logic or genuine involvement just to promote Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. As far as I know, these two people have no ties to the community. I might be wrong. They were simply and legitimately doing a standard sponsor segment as part of their job. So it could be worse, right? Surely we could complain that it won't be high-level gameplay, allegedly. But honestly, that's never been an issue for me. It doesn't aim to be in the first place. Sets of, forgive me the hyperbolic terms, low or mid-level skill have every potential to be interesting or entertaining. So, if we're trying to look at this objectively, what exactly is the problem? As in fighting games, it's all about timing. But before moving forward, I had to do a little bit of research, right? For the sake of honesty. So, the EvoFGC channel, which I believe was born following the acquisition of Evo by Qiddiya, or at least it's been incredibly prolific since then, published a video on Tyler1 and Ludwig and their exhibition match, asking about their history with fighting games, their past together, or their beef, and how they're preparing for this set. You can find the video in the description down below. The video does what it's supposed to do. It builds familiarity with the two people who might be perceived as outsiders from the community, explains the lore of their rivalry, and honestly, I really appreciate how Tyler described the fighting game community and the EVO vibes, the tournament vibes, and the people who are part of it. So again, it could be worse, right? But the contents of the video lead inexorably to the first point that made me turn up my nose at this match, which is also the most predictable one, the stakes. Since it's an exhibition match organized by EVO, it has the distinct air of a shill move. Ludwig and Tyler are two very famous variety streamers in terms of gaming. They create various types of content and we know their involvement in the scene, as we said before. And Tyler, as described in the mentioned video, actively plays Street Fighter 6 and is training with NknuckleDu, the legend, where Ludwig apparently has barely opened the game, so to say. Though it's entirely possible that he's training off stream. I don't know that. It's just the perception that I have as a viewer who might see the match. But as Ludwig said himself in the video, if I win, it will be incredibly embarrassing for Tyler. If I lose, it's exactly what everybody expects. I can't really lose here. And furthermore, the lore between Tyler and Ludwig, it's known to those who follow them as comic creators. But despite the EvoFGC video, it doesn't provide that much context, that much heat, that much passion to the core community. Hell, I would have preferred 1,000 times to see Slime, just because they had a couple of tweets and we've seen Slime grinding actively ranked and just go through all the canon events of every Street Fighter 6 players, from the ranking up to the amazing comebacks to the very weird interactions in custom rooms after a ranked set, We've all been there, and it's very funny how he handled them. The community might not feel so invested in the outcome of this match, both because the attitude displayed and the history behind it, or supposed history. Many first attempts, even on such a smaller scale, have carried feuds, rivalries, and grudges that were far more compelling. When you have two snarling dogs in the ring, the audience can't wait to see the victor and the humiliated. For better or worse, you know. Think about it 1 second. We just recently witnessed the FT10 between Mena RD and Daigo Umehara. And despite being first a marvelous display of skill, with staggering viewership numbers and an insane anticipation before this set. Because you know, there is on one side a legend who never lost an FT10, on the other side the strongest player of the current era. And Mena RD challenging Daigo out of respect and to test himself. The community worried about Daigo's age and him not being able anymore maybe to actually win this, but also he's always been considered the underdog, but he always destroyed his opponents. And himself saying, the more you count me out, the more it fuels my determination. Every single piece of this puzzle created anxiety, hype, and craving for this showdown. And yet, following this incredible clash, the Japanese community and some of the Westerns expressed its dissent regarding the spectacularization and the commercialization of the match, as well as the unforgivable production errors. A sacred right within the community has been distorted. This is the weight an FT10 carries. And I fear all of this is missing here. Of course it is. EVO obviously is doing this for publicity, to bring a different audience to EVO or its live channels. But as described in the book, The Art of Community, wonderfully transposed into an FGC contest by Korea Gaming, every community has temples. Every community has rituals that are vital to its identity. I don't think the community is going to be particularly angry about this, but worse, I think it will be completely indifferent. And if we start being indifferent to big FT10s in the most sacred place there is, it's kind of sad. I'd even venture to say it's dangerous. And unfortunately, one EvoFGC video, it's not gonna do the trick. But speaking of which, let's clarify one point right now. Tyler and Ludwig are doing their job. They're working. The point of this video is not directed at them. It's directed at EVO. As you've seen following the Qiddiya acquisition, EVO has changed a little bit. In mid-February, EVO announced that the Qiddiya city-owned RTS has taken full ownership of the Evolution Championship Series and EVO fighting game events, after Sony stepped back and Endeavor, formerly TKO Nordwind, sold its stake. Just a few days later, the official EVO page released an article outlining the future timeline for the brand. By 2027, EVO will consist of 9 different mayors across the world. Locations like China, the Middle East, Brazil, Morocco, Singapore, and Mexico will join the roster alongside Vegas, Japan, and Nice. And before that, in March 2025, Capcom signed an official partnership with EWC for the Capcom Pro Tour. And we've seen how one competition basically acts as a gateway to the other. A year later, Qiddiya bought a stake in Capcom for investment purposes, and another. And years ago, SNK was fully acquired by them. The more the time passes, the more every node of this circuit seems to converge towards a single central point. A lone interlocutor who acts as both father and master. And this has been made possible by two paradoxically opposing reasons. On one hand, we as users lack the significant power to prevent these accusations, allegedly. On the other hand, we have allowed them and sometimes even encouraged them in the name of the potential economic return for the community. We aren't even discussing the main controversies surrounding the MBS government and the esports washing. There's a ton of content you can watch regarding this. Tons of articles, tons of videos. I will gladly send you to those contents which are way better than this one. And if you weren't convinced back then, anything I say now is not going to change your mind. Regardless of all this, as crazy as it sounds, do you see the issue? Even ignoring all the government part, there is a silent trade-off. We as a community are allowing a once decentralized grassroots networks to be monopolized, all for the hope that a few people might make it big or have the possibility to make a living out of this. This might not even help local TOs. We'll have 9 EVOs, and I'm afraid that some of the most important and legacy events on the CPT circuit are going to struggle to stay afloat, are going to compete for date slots, regardless of the prestige. Yes, there is a local initiative EVO is doing, like its opening application right now in Asia, but we don't know about that. And it feels like a drop in the bucket for me personally. And so here we are on the matter of timing. In the midst of all this chaos and change, at the stage where the long-awaited esportsification of fighting games is harshly meeting the monkey's paw of its own desires, this exhibition match arrives. And I don't want to go for the planet is dying, the animals are leaving, just 2 of us, etc. But in this concerning centralization of the competitive FGC scene, this latest shill at EVO, devoid of apparently any real stakes, was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I am a big fan of opportunities such as World Warrior, which allowed people without the financial means to travel to get noticed through only their skill in the game. But this set feels just like another piece of a community that I slowly feel moving further away. I feel like those dreams of grandeur that and I will say most of fighting game players have had are starting to feel mixed with the idea of winning a big prize, rather than doing it just to feel strong, to feel better, to feel like you matter inside the community that you care so much about. And the more this process keeps developing, I really just find joy in the small communities we have. The small Discords where you find matches in, or your local, your offline local, and all the beefs, all the rivalries, all the banter, or just the upsets. These are the parts that will draw me the most, more than any commercial stunt. And when this era will be over, the esportsification will be over, we will only have local scenes to go back to. So please don't forget them. Reclaim your spaces, small or big tournaments, just don't leave them alone.